turn the session over to Chad, and he can go through.
Okay. I'm gonna have slides for you too, if it helps in 3 minutes.
Okay.
My name's Chad Hansen. I'm with Great West Engineering. The council asked us to go ahead and update the water system PR that was last done in 2010. There's still some projects hanging out there that haven't been done that were recommended, and there's some new funding opportunities, so we wanted to take a look at those. A preliminary engineering report is pretty comprehensive. It looks at all parts of the existing system. We compile an inventory, assess the condition, evaluate performance, identify any deficiencies. Once those deficiencies are identified, we determine all alternatives out there that could address them. Then they get screened down to what are actually viable. We go through a pretty in-depth analysis and then a selection of the preferred alternative. And once we have a preferred alternative, we prepare a proposed funding and implementation plan. The city, we're looking at construction the earliest in 2020, so we did a 20-year life cycle. It's pretty common, a 2040 design year. According to the Census Bureau, the current population is 462. If we project that at a 0.5% growth over 20 years, it's 516. Similarly, the average water demand is 32,000 gallons per day. Projecting that out, it's 36. The existing water system, like I said, we do an inventory and evaluation. The water supply, currently you have 2 wells, well number 1, well number 2, which was installed in 2017. Your projected peak day demand is 75 gallons per minute, so either well can meet that by itself, which meets DEQ regulations. The quality, it meets all the primary and secondary MCLs. It is very hard water. You guys, I'm sure, are very aware of that. I assume most people soften it. It only requires chlorination for treatment, so you guys are in a really good spot as far as water quality and supply compared to a lot of communities across the state. You did take out a loan to pay for that second well, but your supply is in pretty good shape now. Storage, you have a 300,000 gallon buried concrete tank up on the hill. It was constructed in '96. They just cleaned it in August and did a report. It's in good shape. Recommended fire flows at the school are 2750 gallons per minute for 2 hours. And the DEQ says your storage should have the largest fire flow plus your average day. Yeah, average day, not max day. So your storage is 66,000 gallons short of providing or meeting that requirement. But we'll talk about that a little later. Even if you built that extra 66,000 gallons, I don't know that it's realistic to get 2750 gallons per minute to the school. So the distribution system was originally installed in the 20s. A lot of it's still asbestos cement pipe. It's proven to be a really durable pipe in eastern Montana with the hot clay soils, as long as it's not disturbed. If it is disturbed, it's pretty brittle, it's easily broken. You guys had a leak down on Harley Avenue where they were putting in new services. As part of that, when they turned the tank back on, there was a surge, and there was a leak on Minespur Loop. And Jeremy and Spencer discovered a 4-inch main that doesn't appear on any of the maps or the town records. That's in pretty bad shape and probably needs to be replaced. Other concerns, there's a single water main going under the highway and the tracks. Anything ever happened and that line broke, the 2 halves of the town are disconnected. The wells are on one side, the tank's on one side, so there can be lots of concerns there. There's 10 intersections that do not have fire hydrants. Current DEQ regulations require a hydrant at every intersection. And there's estimated up to 10 fire hydrants in the system. We know 2 that don't work. It takes 2 guys to open one and the other one just doesn't work. And then based on flows, reduced flows that you should get out of them, there's a few more that are probably on 4-inch leads. And DEQ requires at least a 6-inch lead. I know this is particularly concerning to the town with the structural fires in 13 and 16. So, fire flows, we did a hydraulic model. We updated the model for the town and the distribution system. The NFPA recommends 1,000 gallons per minute, 2 hours for residential, 1,500 for commercial, and then again the 2750 for the school. About 98% of the system meets the 1,000 gallons per minute if the hydrants can actually deliver it. The mains can get it there. The commercial district's very close, and so we didn't really recommend any improvements because there's just no, the return on investment is pretty negligible. But the school has only got 1,100 gallons per minute right now, which is well short of the 2,750. So once we did that, like I said, we identify alternatives to address these deficiencies. We go through a screening process to eliminate them, and then we do an in-depth analysis on what are considered the viable alternatives. As a note, your supply and treatment, the chlorination, the wells, you're in great shape, so we didn't look at any alternatives there. You addressed that in 17. The storage alternatives, again, I kind of touched on this. Looking at additional storage versus sprinklers at the schools. To get that fire flow to the school, we'd have to add extra storage. We'd have to put in all sorts of new distribution mains. And even upsizing and putting in those extra distribution mains, we can only get 2,400 gallons per minute there. Your existing tank can provide, with the wells helping, 2,500 gallons per minute. And doing all that, we're at over $1 million. I talked to some of the fire flow guys and architects, and they said you should estimate $6 per square foot to retrofit sprinklers. So if we retrofitted the entire school, all the buildings, both floors, it's $300,000. So it's tough to justify spending $1 million, $1.2 million to get 2,400 gallons per minute to the school when they could put in sprinklers. The residents from are going to pay for it either way. However, the school district encompasses a larger area, so it would be spread out a little more. Based on that, we considered the no action alternative the only viable storage alternative. The cost of the extra tank compared to the sprinklering, it just doesn't pan out or make sense to me. Obviously, if you guys disagree, we can add it back in and evaluate it. But distribution system alternatives we considered in detail. Alternative D1 is to install a redundant water main under the highway and the railroad tracks and connect two dead ends. Alternative D2 includes that redundant water main plus running the parallel main from the tank all the way down to River Road and over to Missouri, I believe it is, to get the fire flow to the school I discussed. Alternative D3 is to replace that 4-inch main in Minespur Loop and Wappler Way. Is that how you say it? Wappler or Wepler?
Wetland.
Wepler? Wepler Way. And then the last alternative we looked at was to replace all the fire hydrants on 4-inch leads and install new hydrants at all intersections that are currently not equipped with hydrants. It's a little tough to see, but this green line would be that new 8-inch line all the way down to the intersection of River and Missouri to get fire flows over to the school. There's that 4-inch line that Jeremy and Spencer discovered in Minespur Loop. And there's where we would cross the highway and connect these two dead ends and put in a redundant crossing of the highway. And then the red hydrants that pop up there are the 10 new ones. And to identify the other ones that would get replaced, we know 2 that are bad. The next time they flush the hydrants, the fire department usually does it. Jeremy would help, and he's going to borrow our pressure testing equipment and test each hydrant. And then if the flows and pressures are significantly less than the model shows they should be, we know they're probably on a 4-inch lead and need to be replaced. So we can verify that they're working the way they're supposed to be. So as part of our alternative analysis, we developed capital costs, which are the construction costs. We look at any increase or decrease to the annual operation and maintenance costs. We have to calculate the 20-year salvage value. The funding agencies require that. And then we come up with a net present value of these alternatives or life cycle cost. So we're comparing apples to apples. Some alternatives cost a lot to build, but they don't cost very much to run. Capital costs are grant eligible, O&M is not. Conversely, some are very inexpensive to build, but very costly to run for the next 20, 30, 40 years. So life cycle costs give us a more balanced comparison, I guess. And so you can see the alternatives. If you have questions on that, we could dive into the weeds, but those are just the cost estimates that we came up with. Then we take and we put all the alternatives we consider into a decision matrix. The criteria that we look at are life cycle costs, operation and maintenance, not just the cost, but what it does for the town's operation and maintenance, because You have limited personnel that are running water, sewer, garbage, parks, plowing, permitting issues, social impacts, environmental impacts, sustainability considerations, public health and safety, land acquisition. We also weight those. Cost is generally the number one concern in a small community, so it gets a 10 out of 10. Operation and maintenance, again, is very big for a small town, is a 7. Permitting, environmental impacts, and land acquisition for the alternatives we're looking at are very low, so we gave them a low weight because it's all in existing streets, it's all pretty straightforward. Social impacts generally follow the costs. Sustainability, again, we're not greatly improving some things, so it's a little tough to read, but then we plugged in scores for all of these, and they're weighted. And out of that it says replacing the fire hydrants got the highest score. It would be the highest priority. Behind that would be the water main crossing, followed by replacing the line in Mine Spur Loop, and then the additional main to get fire flow to the school. Our proposed project or recommended is that you guys look at alternative D1 and FH1, which is the redundant highway and railroad crossing and the new fire hydrants. They're the highest ranking ones. They go together pretty well and come up with a project that's about $500,000, which this is just the same figure. There's the crossing, and then you can see a little better the new hydrants. So there's a cost estimate of the preferred alternative. Comes out to $505,000. That's based on recent bid tabs. We just did a Jack and Bore over in Red Lodge last year, so I have some pretty good ideas on those costs, and the rest of these we do pretty often. So once we have a preferred alternative, we look at potential funding sources. Some of the common ones out there available to the community through the state of the Treasure State Endowment Program. You have to be at the target rate as calculated by the Department of Commerce to be eligible. Currently, your average rates are 155% of the target rate, so you're eligible for up to $750,000. You did receive a $750,000 grant from TSEP for the wastewater project, so you would obviously be eligible again. DNRC, the Renewable Resource Grant and Loan Program, provides up to $125,000 for public facility grants. Again, you got $125,000 from them for the wastewater project. You've had some success there. The Community Development Block Grant is based on the low to moderate income LMI, and the community has to have an LMI over 51% to be qualified. Currently, the Department of Commerce lists your LMI at 33.33%, and that's based on data from the American Community Survey. We don't know where the American Community Survey surveys because we've never talked to anybody that's ever actually answered their survey. In 2013, before the wastewater project, the town thought that the MHI and the LMI, back then I think they said your MHI was like 64,000 or something, it was way too high. So you conducted an income survey and you found your MHI was way low, like 36,000 I think, and your LMI was 56%.
Right.
So you were eligible, and you did receive a community development block grant for $450,000 for the wastewater project.
Yeah, we did that with MAP.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you have that option again if you disagree with the Department of Commerce, but the problem is every 5 years they put out this data, and that 2015 data trumps your 2013 income survey, so you'd have to do another income survey. And it was a huge undertaking to get the 67% return rate. But if we were looking again at a multi-million-dollar project like the wastewater, it might be worth it. But in this case, it probably isn't. Rural development, they provided a grant loan package for the wastewater project as well. It was about $900,000, 96 maybe in loan, and $1.26 million in grant. So again, they're a funding source that you guys can go after for grant and loan projects. And then a new one that we've been discussing, and you guys decided you want to look into, is the Delivering Local Assistance Program. It was created by the state legislature this year through House Bill 652. The applications are due Monday. They gave us lots of time. They're providing $10.75 million for infrastructure projects and another $10.75 for schools. Community or a school can apply for a maximum of $750,000 per project, and there's a $1.5 million per county cap. So if multiple communities go after this, there is no match required, where TSEP and some of those others, TSEP has a 50% match and CDBG has a 25% match. We don't know if this is the first time they've ever done this program. We don't know if they'll do it again in the next legislature, where it's going to go, so it could potentially be a one-time opportunity. So what we did, or I did, is I took the costs and I did various funding scenarios. The first scenario is just a straight DLA grant. And you can see down here, the bottom line is the increase to rates is $0 because we're not putting in any match. You're still at 155%. Next best scenario would be if next spring we applied to TSEP and DNRC and we got those grants. You're going to have to put in, like I said, a portion of it's going to have to be match. So I assumed an SRF loan for that match of $127.5 to come up with your guys's, because 125 DNRC counts towards the match, and then you have to come up with the rest of the half match. You have to match TSEP dollar for dollar. That resulted in a $1.68 increase potentially per month per user, kicks you up to 157. And then TSEP, if we didn't get DNRC, was $3.32 a month, and a straight loan from SRF was $6.64 a month per user. So your rates are already really high, and the $0 increase to me is obviously the most attractive if we can manage it. If we did go after DLA grant, like I said, they're due Monday. They're supposed to be awarded by the end of the year. Pretty quick turnaround. We're thinking it might be more in January, but they're saying by the end of the year. So that means right after the first, you guys could start the startup requirements for the grant. You're gonna have to go through procurement for engineering because it's over the $20,000. Or it's 50 now, but still. Then design could be done next spring. DA approval and bidding, and we could potentially build it next fall. September, October would be a pretty short window in construction. 2 months should be enough to get in. So that's kind of a potential timeline. And so I went through that in a kind of a hurry. I have left draft PERs with 2 copies with Jan, which she'll have at the front desk. Shirley and Jeremy have a copy they're going to go through. But any questions that the council has or the public at this time, I can get into way more specifics. No questions? I didn't do that good a job, did I? Yes, ma'am.
Just a refresher, there was like 3 or 4 options, right, that we're talking about? Like the fire hydrants and underneath?
The
I
alternatives we
apologize.
considered?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No problem. We looked at 4 in detail.
Okay,
Doing the crossing, then redundant crossing.
okay.
Alternative D2 is the redundant crossing plus
The parallel.
putting in another line to try and increase the fire flows at the school. Alternative D3 is replacing the 4-inch main on Mine Spur Loop. And then the last alternative is fire hydrants. And then we put them into the decision matrix. And part of the reason I recommended is the preferred is the alternative crossing and the fire hydrants. Those 2 alternatives clearly benefit the entire community.
No, that's just what I was trying to.
And the one to the school is very specifically for the schools. And there's an alternative out there, a realistic alternative where they can do it for about 1/3 of the price, even if it was half the price. And then the Mine Spur Loop one, it serves about 12 homes. It's a dead-end line, and so again, it's a very localized benefit. There is a benefit. I mean, the pictures of the pipe Jeremy sent me, it's in terrible shape. But
Is that the asbestos cement as well?
it's actually cast iron, and it's very tuberculated. It's got a huge buildup of rust on the inside, so it's probably only about a 2-inch line right now. And he's had to fix 2 leaks in it already, and it's going to keep getting worse. But it.
How long is that pipe that needed to be replaced? What's the length of that?
About 750 feet off the top of my head. It runs
Wow.
down Mine Spur Loop, and then it kind of jogs and comes down the Swepler Way. And we don't have any maps of it or anything, so this is all just Jeremy's best guess. and he thinks it goes to this intersection, and then there's services that run down these two driveways, but we're not even sure where it goes. It's not on any maps, we didn't know about it until it started leaking, and he and Spencer had to dig it up and fix the leak, and they found it. And
And then
then
they had another leak.
they had another leak about 40, 50 feet away,
Yeah.
so.
And what was the cost of replacing that?
Just to replace the line?
Yeah, Did you figure that
$225,000. $224,000. By the time you go in there and fix it and replace the pavement and stuff.
so
It's
if we
like
added that
3
to,
city blocks.
if we added that to the two that you proposed,
Mhm.
we'd still be under the 750,000, right?
We would, we could.
I don't know why we wouldn't,
729.
yeah, I don't know why we
What would
wouldn't
that-
add that to it.
Lower our chances to get the grant.
They might, that would be my.
Why
concern.
why would that be the case?
Because there's not money out there to share with anybody else putting in for the grant.
Well, they capped it at $750,000 for a reason.
Yeah, they did. This is a brand new program and nobody's ever gone through it before. And the Department of Commerce is kind of a moving target. But we have talked to some of the legislatures that put the bill out there
Mhm.
and the intent behind it. And they want to see lots of projects, not 10 projects. They want to see 20, 30 projects. We could add it in, we are under the 750. I just don't know concern wise what that does, like you're
That'd
saying.
be
Three
chances.
projects for us, so.
Yeah, you're looking at 3
Would
projects.
it be considered 3 projects to
No,
them
it
or
would,
one?
we would do it all as one project for sure.
Yeah.
But I just don't, I can't honestly give you, our feeling is, or my personal feeling, is if we can stay at that $500,000-ish, and they're gonna try and spread it around. And I know just in the county, you guys are gonna be competing with Red Lodge, Joliet, and Roberts. And I don't know if any of the schools are putting in, so, you know, you get to that 1.5 million in a hurry. And so, we can, I mean, and that's why we're here tonight, is to see which direction you guys wanna go.
Where's your graph or your spreadsheet with the different options if you did certain grants paired together? And what the cost, like the cost breakout and all that?
And that's only those two, the 505, I didn't add in the third
Right.
one, but I could redo it for sure, if you guys wanted to look at doing that. And a grant or a match is not required in the DLAs, but it says right in the application is strongly encouraged. When you start getting to that 750, I don't know what they're gonna consider. I can make a pretty strong case. You guys just spent millions of dollars on your wastewater, you just took out a debt on the new well, you're still paying for the 96 improvements, your rates are 155% target. We use the 2013, that income survey you did, you're at 199% of target.
Yeah,
And so, and just paying, coming up with the 10,000 for the half of the PER, essentially wiped out your reserves in water.
Right.
So you have a pretty strong financial case at this point, and we could look at adding it in. I wish, I mean, if this was TSEP, I'd be able to tell you, I think, how they're gonna view things, but
this
it's
is
also
new.
brand new.
Yeah. So if we did not include that, what's the feeling on how we get that taken care of? That's $200,000.
Can you
If
do
the
a
city's-
separate one for that?
There's other grants that we could probably go after.
So you can apply for multiple DLA grants for separate projects, and then you put on there which one's your highest priority. But the fact that they're gonna get 10 times the grants that they have the money, I guarantee anything that's not a number one priority is gonna get thrown right.
Yeah,
What if you went after a different grant for that
Well,
one?
we could go after a different grant for that.
Say you did the
Um,
TSP
but everything else
strictly
is gonna be
for,
matching.
So
but that's
an
a
angle
smaller amount.
Yeah.
we could look at.
224 of a,
Well, even if you're looking at 25% match, which is normal, that's the basic,
right.
and it goes up from there. You're still looking at quite a bit of money out of our budget. for
$25,000.
match.
So
No,
you,
$50,000.
you guys
You're
are
looking at 80,
Yeah.
225,
Right.
70 to 80,000.
you guys are much more familiar with that neighborhood than I am. Can you tell me, like that Mindsper Loop and that Whipper Way, what the demographics might be over there? Because if we could do a localized income survey, and if we show that their LMI is over 51%, we could go after CDBG, and they allow you to go for projects that specifically target LMI neighborhoods or disadvantaged, like they do a lot of Boys and Girls Clubs or halfway houses. Or
But they're not disadvantaged.
okay,
I don't think so.
I just
If
Yeah.
the
It's-
town-
I don't
if the
wanna-
town is gonna grow, it has to grow that direction.
yeah, I noticed that there's quite a bit of platted, undeveloped stuff
Right.
out there in that field. At the end of it, once I started looking at it,
Yeah.
and that's another avenue. If anybody ever developed that, part of it might be they have to upsize that line to
Well,
even
it's
get the
privately
flows.
owned right now. I don't even know why it was ever platted, what the reasoning was behind it, or if it was, why was it sold?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
So,
It's a lot.
but that is a good question, and we could definitely add it in, and you're still under the 750. Is that the direction you guys would want to go, I guess, or what's your general consensus or opinion?
I mean, go for the one we thought we could get. We tried to get.
He doesn't know any more than we do, Bill. This is a new program.
I know, I guess this is what I've presented is my best professional gut feeling of we have a real chance of getting this without asking for too much, where
Because that's what I wonder if they're kind of looking at, since this is a new rollout, like more of the PR end of it, what the whole, like statewide, what people got out of it as a whole, rather than, okay, we put all our assets into one town of 450 people.
based on hallway conversations and just talking, if I were in their shoes with the pressure from the legislation, different things, I would take every application for Carbon County, go through there and pick one, and do that for every county, put those in the middle of the table and then rank them 1 to 56.
Right.
And try and put a pin on the map in every county I could, so that the legislatures,
Can see exactly.
because the ones in the west want timber impacted communities, and the ones out in the east want the oil, and everybody in between, and I think they're gonna try and spread it out as much as they can. That's my personal, I can't prove that, but just, we followed it closely all the way through the legislature, and I know Craig Erickson, our grant administrator, has talked to the two gentlemen that wrote the bill and their intent, and we've tried to get as much from the Department of Commerce staff as we can, because it is brand new. They honestly don't know what they're gonna do, or how they're gonna rank all these different projects that are bridges and water and sewer and schools, and they're all in the same pot, and they honestly don't know, so.
Right, and that 10 million doesn't go that far.
It doesn't, when you start thinking about
You
it,
start adding up the costs.
even at $500,000, that's 20 projects, 20 infrastructure, 20 school, you're not even gonna get to every county. This would be my recommendation, but we can sure add it if you guys would like to go that route. And there are options down the road, like you say, that we can look at, start saving and look at different things. It is benefits a specific neighborhood, maybe it's partially an SID, partially some grant funding. We can look at some different avenues.
I'm not sure an SID would ever,
Yeah, SIDs are tough to pass.
yeah.
Until they're out of water, and then it gets pretty desperate. I really focus on the two alternatives that provide the entire community the biggest benefit is the reason
Yeah.
I recommended these two. I know that that's a serious issue on Minesburg, but it's also a very localized neighborhood happening. And the same with getting the fire flows to the school. I mean, schools, I'm a huge supporter of schools, but if there's a cheaper, better way to do it.
Personally, I kinda like just the two that we're looking at, first two.
I think they have the highest need.
I see,
I don't know whether the
we have a
fires
better
just
chance. If they do have it next year, then maybe we can,
That's just it. If it comes back, we can go right back for Minesburg Loop or something.
Okay.
What are your guys' thoughts out there?
I like the proposal that's there.
So one
Look at
thing,
other options down the road.
yeah, one thing, if we do move forward and you guys decide to pursue the DLA grant, that would greatly help, is letters of support from the community. Unfortunately, we need to get those to Jan, so she can get them to me by Friday, because we've got to email these and postmark them by Monday. I also gave her a petition that people can sign if they want, that just says, hey, we support it, the PER recommendations and stuff, so anything helps along those lines. Particularly, I've talked to the mayor, if you guys know anybody that has been impacted, because the DLA grant is supposed to help communities that have been impacted by the development of coal, oil, natural gas, or timber. And in doing the research, part of the PR and preliminary, can make a pretty darn good case for you guys in Carbon County. Surprisingly, you're the ninth largest collector of oil and gas taxes in the state out of all the counties. Carbon County is. And it's been on the decline since the 80s and different things. But if you knew anybody that's been laid off from the Bakken, has had trouble finding a job or had to move or something, and then they said, hey, I can't afford more water rates or something like a letter like that would carry a lot of weight. Because I know, talking to the mayor and some of you, that there are people that work construction or for the pipelines or the drilling activities or so any letters of support we can get are great. Obviously I can say you guys are founded as a coal town, but that disappeared in the 40s. There's no
Yeah.
coal left. There is coal, there's just not much. So you guys have been impacted as a community. So are there any other questions you guys have for me right now? I ran over my time by a few minutes, but
No.
great.
Yeah, I think it's far and away the number one scenario is the best one to look at. I mean, if we go hiking the water, it's anywhere.
Right. Well, and the thing too is with the DLA, if they do tell us by the end of the year, you guys can reevaluate and decide if you want to go after TSEP and RC grants, because those grant applications will be due next May. But that'll be it.
So just if they did have to go after a TSAP, what was it you were saying it'd raise?
I estimate about $1.68.
$1.68?
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe
okay.
$2.
No, and you know, just me personally, I don't have a problem with $1.68 if I'm considering a fire hydrant. But, you know, you start getting more, some people might have a problem with it.
Mhm.
You know, that's
Yeah,
just,
no, I mean,
Well, my only concern is, right now, is I'm like you, Tammy, I wouldn't have a problem with an extra $2 or $3 on my water bill. But we do have some very low income elderly people and other people in the community that, you know, it would,
well, and
any
it
kind of a raise would be
doesn't
hard.
seem like much, $2 a month, until you look and that you're already paying $122 a month.
Mhm.
So
yeah.
your rates are already
Yeah,
really high.
they're really high, and so you can't, but like I
So,
said,
yeah.
it's one of those deals when you, I don't, do you guys figure this in, and does it change any cost? When you're talking fire hydrants, does it change anything insurance-wise in the community?
It can, if you get your ISO rating increased, then insurance